Hey everybody, Aaron Blaise here, and I want to take you through my library and show you some of my favorite art books. Hey everybody, so today I want to take you through some of my favorite books in my library. I've got a big library of art books and nature books and just books in general. And I'm always getting asked about different books, so I thought I would take you through some of my favorite artists in my collection. I've got a lot of artists in my collection. This just happens to be about 10 or 11 books that I've pulled out. But I think, especially for a lot of young artists, it's worth knowing about some of these artists. And so I thought I'd take you through. So why don't we just go ahead and dive in? There's no particular order to any of these books. I'm just going to grab them off the stack. This first one, by an artist named Rain Portvlate. Now, Rain Portvlate, he passed away in the last 10 years or so. But he's done a series of books. This happens to be one of my favorites. I've got all of his books. This one's called Noah's Ark. The man was very versatile in his art. And he was a nature artist, but his books are set up to look like sketchbooks. And this first one, like I said, is called Noah's Ark. And when you see his approach and his just his draftsmanship and his observations, it's really very, very cool. I've drawn a lot of inspiration in my approach to my sketchbooks and just my art in general from his work. I've been a fan of his since I was in high school. And like I said, you can see the way he approaches his art and the way he presents it in his books. And it's all kind of observational little stories, things like that. This one, tells the story of the Great Flood, but there's really cool little observational drawings that he does that I just absolutely love. All different types of mediums. He's got charcoal, pencil, ink, oil. Very cool books. So look him up. It's Rain Portvlate. And it's spelled RainPortvliet. And you'll love his work. If you want to fill sketchbooks, if you want to be an animal artist, then you need to have his books in your library because you will draw so much inspiration from his work. He was extremely prolific. Really, really beautiful work. So there's that first one. So this one's a big book too. Rain Portvlate, Noah's Ark. Fantastic book. Since we're on the idea of sketchbooks, I want to take you through this one as well. This is William D. Barry. And this is a book of sketches that he did out in the field in Alaska from 1954 to 1956. Just a couple of years, and yet he's got thousands of drawings in here. And it's literally a book of his sketchbooks. Once again, if you want to do observational work, go out into the field, which I'm always pushing, and sketch. This book is an absolute must. So it's William D. Barry. Unfortunately, he was in Fairbanks, Alaska, and he was shot and killed. And it was a tragic story, but the art he produced, this is a book that was put together by his wife, I believe. And she went through all of his sketchbooks, all of his journals and everything, and everything's organized according to animal. And they're just really beautiful observational sketches. This one I've just drawn so much inspiration from in the way that I fill out my sketchbooks as well. But just really, really great stuff. There's a little color section in here I wanted to show. Where is that? Right in here. because he did a lot of little watercolor sketches as well, along with little oil sketches. But these are just beautiful. Everything, you know, from the foliage he would find out there, the plants, the scenery, all from the Alaskan tundra. And all of this, like I said, there's thousands of drawings in here, was just done over a 2-year period. Really beautiful. He knew his stuff, really inside and out. Everything from little voles and mice all the way up to whales and caribou and wolves, bears. Really wonderful stuff. So once again, this is William D. Barry. This has been a huge book in my collection. I refer to this book all the time, especially when I'm doing research for a specific animal and looking for posing. I'll look at his sketches often for anatomy and that sort of thing, because they are so accurate, his drawings. Incredibly accurate. So check that out. I've always recommended this book. I've had this particular book in my collection for 30 years, and I still go back to it for inspiration. Okay? William D. Barry, Alaskan Field Sketches. So here's another artist that is a constant inspiration to me, Karl Rungas. Karl Rungas was a German artist who came to the United States when he was, I think, in his 20s, and wanted to paint the West. And he did a lot of he was a hunter, and he did a lot of his hunting and painting in the Northwest, in the Canadian Rockies and that area. And his composition, his design, his paint application, his brushwork is second to none. The Museum of Wildlife Art in Jackson Hole, Wyoming has an entire room dedicated to his paintings. And every time I'm there, I just stand in front of these paintings and get my nose right up next to them. The depth that he has and the sculpturalness of his paintings, the way he understands light, the way he understands form, is really beautiful. Look at this composition right here. That's just a magic composition. It's absolutely incredible. And many of these paintings I've been able to see in person. And I can honestly say the book is beautiful, but it really doesn't do the paintings justice. If you ever get a chance to see any of his work in person, you need to see it. His design, his abstract his design, the way he creates his and lays out his values and shapes and everything else within the frame is stunning. You know, everything, even though obviously this is realism, everything has a very abstract design to it. And it's just gorgeous. Strong. What's interesting for me about his paintings is that they feel like where they're from. I mean, in the way that they're painted, that's what I mean. They're painted in such a way that they just feel rugged, literally, physically, and they're just absolutely incredible. So, once again, Karl Rungas, Painter of the Western Wilderness. You got to check it out. It's a very good book. Next, this one of my favorite painters of the West, Maynard Dixon, The Art and Life. I love to create simple shapes in my compositions and then build within them. I approach a lot of my paintings from a compositional standpoint, from a very abstract viewpoint, and then I turn that into realism. And Maynard Dixon, to me, really embodies the kind of the approach that I love in my painting. If you look at the graphic quality of his paintings and the abstract qualities, even though, once again, they're based in realism, the abstract design, the stylization, everything of these paintings is stunning. The color work. Maynard Dixon. He was such a painter, wonderful painter of the West. His skies, his his little sketches, all of these are just insanely beautiful. Look at that design. You know, the way he breaks down the shapes, it's just incredible. And he was a good portrait artist as well. I always forget he was a portrait artist too. But look at the color, the way he plays complements, the blues, the oranges, the yellows, the violets. Just insanely beautiful. He also did big murals. But once again, look at the abstract quality of these paintings. You know, that's what we see in nature. You know, we see these big abstract compositions everywhere, and he really captured them well. So, look at that color. It's triptych. Really beautiful. All right, so that's Maynard Dixon. Good book to have. Any book from Maynard Dixon. That's the other thing. Many of these artists that I'm going to be showing you have several books, and I'm just happen to be showing you one from each artist. But any book by any of these artists is great. So this is a wildlife artist by the name of George McLean. He's still alive. And once again, going back to, I'm a big fan of abstract design in your realism. And this is an older book, but George McLean is a master of that. He usually paints, I think, in casein, which is an interesting medium. Let me get to some of the imagery in here, because I really want you to see his design work. He doesn't pose his animals in real typical ways. These two, the owls, this graphic shape right here is very, very, very cool. The design of this owl coming in on this squirrel, and the posing of the squirrel, the way the branches are set, really creates this shot of direction right down through, diagonally through the composition. The red-tailed hawk. Look at, very interesting posing on this. And once again, very graphic, very abstract, and really cool. This one's got a very kind of Asian feel, influence to it, and the way that it's presented. George McLean. Not to be confused with John McClane. Golden eagle and pheasant. Beautiful, beautiful work. Look at that. Look at that design. Beautiful abstract design. If you're looking to do animal art, it's one thing to think about, obviously, the accuracy and the details of the animal you're creating, whether it's birds or mammals or whatever. But then you also want to think about, how are you presenting that image, in the space that you're presenting it within the frame, and to think about the design, the overall design of the image, is something that you just can't forget. And George is an absolute master of it. Really wonderful stuff. George McLean, McLean, George McLean. So, for you pencil artists out there, Paul Klee was one of the most amazing pencil artists, I think, ever. The work that he would do is just absolutely incredible. He was obviously a great painter as well. And I've always been a fan. I've known of his work for years. And I want to take you through. He loved painting the West, the mountain men, that spirit, that rugged spirit that, from a time that's gone by when we're still conquering the West. And this is pencil. All of this is pencil. He had some great books on drawing in pencil as well. And if you're interested in being a pencil artist, Paul Klee is someone you need to look up and you need to see. But his paintings also were just insanely detailed. To be honest, I love his paintings, but I'm more fascinated by his pencil drawings, his stylization, the way he had a very particular style in the way he had the way he directed his strokes, his pencil strokes. It was really amazing. And let me just jump to some of his drawings. He was a professional illustrator, came from that world, and then became a fine artist, as a lot of my artist heroes did, especially in my day. That was a big part of, before I got into animation, I was in the illustration world. And there's a lot of great paintings in here, but these pencil drawings are just really beautiful. From the Moon, John Glenn. Look at that. Really beautiful drawings right here. Documenting the Apollo missions. Great stuff. So that's Paul Calais. Look at that portrait. So this is one that always kills me. This drawing right here, I want to get the glare off of it. This is a pencil drawing right here. And you can sit here for hours and explore it. It's a couple of hunters going after bighorn sheep up in the deadfall, up in the mountains. And the grasses, the textures of the bark, the trees, everything. There's so much going on in here, but he never lost sight of the composition, where to guide the eye, the direction, the eye direction, all of that is through all this complicated stuff that he has in here. He still manages to direct the eye. It's very difficult to do, but he nails it. Really wonderful. So, Paul Calais, An Artist's Journey. Great book. So in the late 1800s, one of the first real animal artists that specialized in animal art was Bruno Lile. And I've got several of his books. He had a very specific style, very graphic in his approach, very loose, but really beautifully observed. And being from Northern Europe, he really captures that Northern European kind of gray, but still having color, light. Very simple, like I said, almost abstract in his approach, but really beautifully rendered out. Look at this sketch. They're just little shapes that he threw down, but that's really how you see it out there, Bruno Lile. He did so much suggested detail without really painting it, and your eye just really fills it in. But his observations of the animals in the world that he painted in are just stunning. Just stunning. He was a bit of a portrait artist as well. But this is the kind of stuff. The texture of the brushwork and the composition, all of this, the lighting, it's all low key, mid to low key lighting. All the value structure is really close together. It's really beautifully done. So that's Bruno Lile. Has been an influence of mine for a long time, once again in my compositions, especially my bird art, that sort of thing. So there you go. So in my opinion, no art library is complete without some of Sargent's work. John Singer Sargent is probably my favorite artist of all time. And he painted everything. He's best known for his figurative work, both in watercolor and oil. But he was, once again, a master of composition, a master of paint application, his brushwork. Nothing ever felt labored. He was a big star of his day. You know, he was something else. The imagery that he created, when you get in here, especially if you see his work in real life, you walk up and the brushwork is so simply done. It's so direct, and it's a lifetime of work to do it as simply as he did. Because when you step back from the painting, it's there and it's beautiful and it's perfect. But then when you step up to it, it's effortless. And that is what blows my mind about Sargent. And the lighting. Look at this. You know, some of the things he would observe and then go back and paint. But things like hands. You know, he had a way of painting hands that were so anatomically perfect. Let me see if I can find, some of the paintings that, and paintings are life size as well. But his hands are just, very wonderful posing. But once again, just perfect strokes, nothing labored. Just absolutely amazing. John Singer Sargent. Look at his work. If you want to be a painter, study it. Whether you want to be a portrait artist or not, he's worth looking at just in the way he portrays light and value structure, color, harmony, all of that, shape. One of the things that's interesting, it always fascinates me, is an artist that can sit down, and this is a very loose painting, and with just a few brush strokes and simple approach to color, you can definitely feel that fabric. You know what that fabric's made of. It becomes translucent, all of these things, and yet it's just a few brush strokes. And that's just absolutely incredible. Look at this, the looseness of this and the beauty of it, that hand. John Singer Sargent. All right. John Singer Sargent. All right. We're getting down to the last three here. Thomas Aquinas Daly. He's a contemporary painter. And I love his work because of his graphic design. He's a watercolor artist. These paintings are all watercolor. There might be one or two oils in here. I'm not sure. But he's mainly a watercolor artist. And I think that first painting is an oil painting. But he's an outdoorsman, paints a lot of fishermen, people out in the camping. But he's got a very if you're familiar with Winslow Homer and Winslow Homer's work, he's very much sorry, I've got some of these marked. It was for a project I was doing. He's very influenced by Winslow Homer. But one of the things I love about, first of all, I love watercolor. And the way he glazes watercolor and, glazes complements over top of each other and builds up these beautiful textures and colors and values, all very delicately in watercolor. And these are very small paintings too. Like this one here, this is about the size of the painting. It's 6 7/8 by 10.5 inches. So they're very small, delicate little jewels, little pieces of art. And but very beautifully designed. This is a very simple painting, but there's so many layers of subtle color in here, and it's just really wonderful from a design standpoint. He could have easily left out this little bit of track going through the snow, but he added it in there as a little piece of interest, and it draws the eye. So it's just a really beautiful little piece. All of these, just absolutely amazing paintings. Great design in watercolor. That's the thing. The way, once again, the way he layers his watercolor and creates these beautiful pieces is just amazing. Look at this beautiful, delicate little painting of this flower. Snowdrops. That's a little oil painting. Very moody as well. It captures a lot of great mood. Light. Thomas Aquinas Daily, right here. It's the painting season. It's a great, great book. This is one that everyone should have as well. And there's a lot of books out on Heinrich Clay. I'm very, very, very influenced by Heinrich Clay in my drawing. As a matter of fact, I try to emulate his work stylistically, because the more I try to copy it, the more I learn. And Heinrich Clay worked around the turn of the century, and he's a German artist, but and did a lot of illustration and that sort of thing for newspaper and magazines, and it was all social commentary type stuff. But his gestural work and his ink application is just insanely beautiful when you look at some in the animal drawings that he did. He was really known for taking animals and putting them in human situations, ice skating elephants and dancing elephants and zebras and crocodiles and all kinds of stuff. They were really, really cool. But his anatomical accuracy and the way his whimsical posing and like I said, the way he applied the ink and created light and form and shape and fluidity and all these different things. Here's one of the elephant sketches. Are just beautiful. And if you're looking to be influenced by really beautiful drawings, look up Heinrich Clay. Frank Frazetta was influenced by Heinrich Clay. Lots of different artists were influenced by him. Gibson was influenced by him. They were drawing about the same time, actually. I think Gibson was a little later. I might be wrong. But they're just wonderful. And check them out. Heinrich Clay. Right there. Clay with a K. K-L-E-Y. Okay? One more book. Now, this is a photographer. But I become in the last, probably 10 years or so, I discovered this photographer. And now this is a big book. But Nick Brandt. Nick Brandt, he elevates his imagery to, it's another world. I can only describe it as being spiritual. His imagery is really insanely amazing. So I've got a couple of his books. When I was I was writing and directing a movie called The Legend of Tembo a few years ago, about 10 years ago, actually more than that, 12 years ago. And it was during that time that I was looking for different imagery to be inspired by, and I discovered his work and was really taken aback by the quality, just the impact of his imagery and his photography. Let me get to some of these big pieces here, because I want you to really get a sense of what I'm talking about. Amazing pieces of art. This shot with a little bit of the trunk just sitting on the ground, that really catches your eye. The lighting, the posing, the photo manipulation as far as the way he developed them. There's just a rugged, having been to Africa myself, I've been to Africa 4 times, to Kenya 4 times. And his photos, they really they inject the way it feels there. And it's really beautiful. Look at that negative space between the heads of these buffalo right there. Just really great. The shape language, the shape relationships, things like that that are just insane. I'm constantly going back to these books for inspiration, and in the way that the way he composes and gets across these really primal, I guess that's the word I've been looking for, is just, it's a primal sense in his photographs. Gritty, earthy, but spiritual. This big bull. Once again, that trunk sitting on the ground. I love that. Look at the tattered ears and it's the old man, tired bull. His eyes are closed, and it just feels like he's got so much history in his life. That light on this lion. Every one of these is just beautiful. So this is just a drop in the bucket of books that I have. I literally just went through and grabbed a couple of my favorites, and I wanted to share them to you with you because, like I said, I'm constantly being asked about my favorite books and different art books and whatnot, and so I wanted to do that with you. And so that, once again, Nick Brandt, check him out. There's a couple of books of his out. Brandt, Nick Brandt. But that's it. That's for right now. I'm going to do this again because I've got so many other art books I want to share with you, from design and animation and everything else. But this group, I just wanted to show you some of the artists that have really influenced me the most over the last 30, 35 years, and do that. So check out some of these artists. Look them up online. Find their books if you want. If you're trying to create your own little art library, these would be amazing additions for it. And check them out, like I said. So I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. Anytime I can get to sit down and go through my books, I absolutely love that. But go on out there, put some beauty back in the world, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks.